Hello, how are you? It's Margo Masri, your Heartfelt CFO. I am super excited to be here on a Monday live with you and a special guest. I'm going to take a hot minute and double check that LinkedIn is actually working. For all of those who are here, I would love for you to come on in, say hello. Let us know where you are from. What I've learned a lot about my lives is a lot of people are more on replay than they are live. And I love how everybody says after certain things of feedback and, all of those fun things. Um, Alex, I don't know if you could check on your phone. I think it takes at least a minute to just double check. Um, well, I have a feeling it's fine, but I'm going to take another minute. We're only like a minute in. There we go. Okay. Oh, wow. It's fine, but oh, there we go. Okay, good. We have a lot of attendees. Okay. So, do you see it?
I didn't quite find it yet, but if you see it, good with me.
Okay. I hope everyone is doing amazing on this Monday. I wanted to start the week with a really hot topic that is in this time of season. However, lots of times my following is listening to this, at a different time of year from when it was actually recorded. In case you are new to my channel or my following, my firm, Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services, provides full service accounting, bookkeeping, and tax services for the real estate professional field and service based providers. And we are here with a hot topic with our guest today. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Hi, doing what? Doing great for a Monday afternoon. So get to go pick up my little one after this and take him to soccer practice.
How old is he?
He's 3, so it's really more running around and getting his wiggles out than it is practice, if anything.
I have 21 and 19 now, and there's so much that I would do to have like soccer practice and to go back to that time. When I hear my clients and like you talk about all of those things, it's like I miss it because now it's all about college, their futures, and it's like then there was big stuff. Like soccer is big, but like this is like different big with their
Yeah.
choosing the career, the right school. When I was putting my daughter in, making sure then I realized it had to be an accredited program. So much.
Oh my goodness.
So today's topic is why waiting to get tax help could be costing you more than you think. Jumping right in, you all know how I love to get right into the topic, but give you guys time a little bit to warm up too. Um, you know, I really want to change the dynamics and the foo-foo around tax returns of making it hard and what the process should be and what it could be. And Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services, our firm does a good job with it. However, you wouldn't know that unless you're a client. And I want to give you information today from someone who went through the process and possibly, and he'll talk about where he was on the spectrum of filing taxes and how it helped him, it didn't help him. And we want you to have the most information possible around this because making it a priority to file on time rather than defaulting to the deadline of the extensions is a very big difference. Now, lots of times we can default because we're worried about K1s and there's very specific things that we're waiting for. However, majority of the process can be done that it wouldn't affect our results. And Alex, I'm curious, when we worked together for tax returns, what would you say was going on when you were making that decision of lingering to getting that into action mode?
Yeah. Ooh, I mean, for me, it was definitely like, I'm just going to do this. So I had kicked the can, honestly, unnecessarily. I was not waiting on K1s at that point in time. It was more of, I did not want to take the time to like gather the documents and do all of the things. And like, it just, there's a part of it for me that was just mindset. Like, and I procrastinated and then kicked the can like within a week or so of like the April 15th deadline. And then I was like, oh, now I've got time, right? I will like do this a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And I think we chatted. It had to have been a month away, maybe 6 weeks away. I don't know. Maybe it was August, so we had 2 months. But it was not like it was at the end of the line again, right? Like I had procrastinated all of that. So for me, it was just and I think filing an S corp return and kind of like navigating the different pieces of all of that. So I guess, yeah, there was in my mind, I had built it up to be this big thing, and there were actually a lot of pieces. And to like for you, that was just a course of business. Like you handled all, like it was all executed seamlessly, filing the S corp, giving me the K1 to then go into my personal return. Like all of that was just so easy. But it was a lot of angst at the end for me, of like, holy cow, this is a lot to do.
Would you share a little bit or part of it or all of it around that story that built up around the tax return?
Yeah. Good question. So it's been a shift. So here's kind of the interesting shift for me is I've typically worked with tax professionals to a point that I was starting a solo endeavor business. I was kind of like thinking this would be pretty simple, right? It's just like, I can manage most of my books in QuickBooks in like 30 minutes a month, and it's not that complicated. But when you add in like professional real estate status, and you add in rentals, and you add in that income and those expenses, and then you add in the like S corp being filed separately, and then the K1 being issued, and then that going into my personal, like to me, I could see the flow of everything that needed to happen, and it just like yeah, honestly, it got to the point where it was like overwhelming. I had a lot of angst around it. I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna owe or what the situation is. And I've typically owed. Last year I did not, which was nice. But yeah, it like
Was that the
I
year you
didn't.
filed with us?
Yeah.
Okay. By chance. Doesn't mean
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
By chance. But yeah, no, it was the buildup of it all was probably a lot of like me building it up personally, and not having yeah, I mean, I think it's just a lot easier when somebody is prompting you with the questions like, hey, go gather all these things, hey, go do these things, gives you the checklist, it gave me like a whole thing. We like, I don't know, we can talk more about the process, but it was incredibly easy from the get-go, just to literally check the boxes.
Somebody who's sitting with the angst, somebody who's sitting with the story right now, what suggestion would you give them to tame down that and help them bring down the noise, maybe from like a 10 to a 5, to at least get on a call and maybe even say like how less scary it is on a call with me? Because some people think like because I'm a CFO and tax, like all these things, that it might be a little bit much. But you said something really, really important. You were like, it was a lot easier being prompted with the question and then it was really easy from there. How can you help now being on the other side, because you went through all of this, somebody who's sitting in that right now, that we can really help them take down the noise? Because in this field, it's more common than not. And I tell you this in practice, on average, I can get from somebody, we're actually doing it for somebody right now. It's about 12 different types of returns across so many years, but on average, it could be anywhere from 2 to about 8 years behind. Like, think about that. So, how can you, now that you experience that in a different way, but giving somebody that on the other side?
Ooh, it is really interesting, and it's like I think and for me, like I guess I can relate it to a real estate, just a little bit. Like for like I will get into a project and like you don't know what you don't know until you start digging. And like as a developer, I know I will learn more along the project and I will just defer to the experts. So for some reason in my professional line of work, it's very easy to like defer and outsource to the experts. But then when it came to this like tax side of things, it was like, oh, I'll just, no big deal. We'll just like take care of it, or it's fine, or it's there, it's in QuickBooks, this should be easier, it's more complicated, etc. um and like, to be honest with you, I bounced around, like I used a family friend, and then I used somebody else's like recommendation, and then I had a partner on a deal, and I ended up using his tax guy. So like my taxes have been probably done by like, I don't know, a new tax person every year for the last like 5 years. um and
Enough.
it's just kind of like you just kind of grab whoever's there. And so it wasn't, you know, honestly, half of the time I'm like, I don't even know if this is like great. Like then they're, my depreciation schedules, hopefully they're carrying over accurately. Like there's a lot of things going on there that in my back of my mind are still kind of like, but I mean, Margo and I DM'd a few times on LinkedIn, pretty like casual conversation, got on the call, and honest, it was probably more of like a personal therapy call than it was like a sales call or anything. And it was just like, okay, you're staring down the deadline. We are at a point of you can hurry up and like get this done with me, or likely you're going to miss the deadline and owe some back taxes, et cetera, et cetera. I will say from the moment I clicked yes, I will do my taxes with you. I had, I'm pretty sure I had like a new customer questionnaire within 24 hours. I was feeling that I was like, my goal was like, I'm just gonna volley everything back within 24 hours. And before I knew it, like we had completed returns and we were looking at stuff. And it did take, I mean, it was probably a 6-week process. Like we weren't, it took a second, and there was definitely work to be done on my behalf. I remember there was one deliverable that probably took me like a month where I did, because I didn't do a great job of like separating out some rental expenses. And so I had to go actually like hurry up and collect all that stuff. And so here's the deal. It's February. If you're going to start, you might as well start now, because at least you have the benefit. If you have 8 years back taxes, like you could get it done by April, maybe, but at least you have until October and you're still like meeting some deadlines. And I'm sure you're going to owe some back stuff. A lot of us have some like depreciation to play with. So hopefully that can help like offset some of this. But like all I can tell you is that in my mind, filling out the like TurboTax or whatever like software flavor of the year I was gonna like choose to do this with, in following their prompts that honestly like don't, like they're great if you're just like a W-2 person. Like they really, like I firmly believe you could probably use an off-the-shelf product if you're a very simple W-2, or like if you have a pretty simple thing. But as soon as you start piling on the LLCs and S corps and partnership structures, and if you need to like do K1s to yourself or to others, like I mean, first off, just side note, if you're doing K1s to others, that like you shouldn't be behind at all. That is like, I used to have investors that would hound me January 1 when those things were going to be done. But if you're just sitting on all of your stuff, and you're doing yourself kind of a disservice there, as well. So it came to a point where the potential pain of like separating with some money versus the potential pain of missing my tax deadline or messing something up, heaven forbid, like weighed in the equation of, hey, like, here you go, please help me. And then the process delivered. Like, that is the other part, right? Like, a lot of times we say yes to something and then it's not what you expected. Like in this case, like, the process definitely delivered. Communication was extremely high. Back and forth was very easy. Answering the questions, yes, like, some of it felt like, why do I have to answer this? But the reality is, like, you just do the work and check off the boxes, and
I
it was
love that.
pretty seamless.
Why do I have to answer that? Because some people think it's obvious. However, we also have to have everything documented so that our tax team could do it properly. And there's a documentation around that. You also said something very interesting, two very interesting things, a lot of very interesting things, but two I want to point out is around the K1s, not to be behind your own K1s. Outside of like 2 to 8 years behind, that's another thing of why it became like a norm in the industry, is because getting the K1s, because everything is such on the delay, uh, because of those K1s, which ends up coming from no bookkeeping, which is a simple fix of doing bookkeeping. It's just there's a lot of stories around that. Um, so I just want to talk about that a little bit around the K1s, is that if your bookkeeping is done well, K1s is easy. If your bookkeeping is like Grand Central Station, where there's like a lot of jobs, then your K1s are going to be a mess. And I just want to say this, just think about it from a basic standpoint. When you give your partners wrong K1s, like, let's just call it what it is, you're basically taking a stab at somebody else's financial life by not taking it seriously when somebody took it seriously to be a partner of your company. Now, it could be a little strong how this is coming out, but what I see happening lots of times is that then there's a Duplo effect of like, somebody technically behind the scene needs a loan, or somebody
Mm.
didn't do their responsibilities, and then there's like a tuition application that needs to happen, that needs to have that, or somebody wants to buy something where where we're taking a line or equity or private money, all of these different things that happen. So how we treat our money is going to treat us, and not having proper documentation around somebody who can lead it, or as he said, to prompt you for the next steps, you're basically almost puncturing their financial world by not having the right people have their eyes on it. And again, this can sound a little bit strong, but I really want to open up the eyes, and being in this field over 20 years, that I see this a lot. And lots of times it's ridiculous things, because it's something easily fixable.
Oh, yeah, that's a you the okay. So this is pre me, right? I was working on a development team. I was employee number one of a developer, and I we were maybe 2 3 years in. So first off, we would go into you could only access QuickBooks Desktop from one computer in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would go in and we would do that, and we would like close it out. And you're like grabbing, I don't know, half a dozen. No, at the end it was probably a couple dozen. So different entities, for different projects. And then at the end we started having some QuickBooks online, but they didn't like at some point we didn't want to pay $20 a month or whatever it was to like transition all of the entities over. So still, for years, I would have to go in to this one office in the back of the building and finish the like year end stuff. And we never did it on time, right? Like, this was like maybe, this is probably January, February. You have like the whole year's worth of bank statements. And then you're trying to understand, like, okay, what is this? I don't even remember this. I remember we bought a car for the company, for one of the like key employees we were bringing on. And when we were doing this in January, it was the last transaction to be categorized because we could not figure out what it was. Like it was just like a cashier's check to some dude, like some person's name, right? Like not even a business. We bought it off a secondhand individual. Like it took us so long to figure out we're a car. Like we couldn't categorize a vehicle for the company because we just didn't. Like I don't know, what did we spend $35,000 on or something crazy? So I will say, like I understand, like in the real estate industry, it's so easy to be asset rich and cash poor sometimes, but like the money that you can spend on accounting services is like add that to your legal fees, basically. Like we're always you're paying attorneys to look over every agreement, to do everything like that. Like add that, it just add it in there. Please don't put it on your PMs or your development managers or your office managers. Like it's worth subbing it out. And
talk about how you felt a little bit. Talk about it a little bit. Well, I love how you added that in because it's really, really common on the project managers. We actually had a very difficult project last year where the managers did that. And to get the information out of him was actually like raising my children. That's really uh that's really the experience because he made it really, really difficult. And the other partner was literally struggling to the degree where it took up his complete mental space. And I'm not there to be people's friends. I'm there to lead you to a new place around it. But I'm your friend, or you called me the therapist around it because it's not really selling, it's really leading you to a new place and helping. If you're open to talking about this a little bit, like when you said to let go a little bit of money around the fees, a lot of people have a problem paying fees around it. Could you tell us a little bit around that, what was going on for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that I intellectually knew that I could do, but didn't like it was a classic case of just like not delegating, honestly. Like it is a legitimately, and I have to say, like in the weeks, months, etc., leading up, in the like, oh shoot, I need to do that, in the worry of it all. Like, there was probably a period of time, first couple months of the year, no big deal. And then it started stressing me out. And then we kicked the can to October. Then I had a couple more months where it was like, wasn't really, it was on the list, but it wasn't really like a priority. And then, yeah, I mean, by the time we were July, August, like it was right around the corner and all over again. And so that mental bandwidth and energy was not calculated in what like me having peace of mind versus the money that we paid for that. And honestly, yeah, it would have been easier to try to like engage. And I think, let me maybe add this. So there's maybe a mental block for me as well, that because I'm trusting somebody to do all of this work, I need to like interview a few people. Like I need to find the right person. Like it makes sense to start to like, okay, what I can, who has this like experience in my industry. I have always had a tendency to go local. And last year, obviously, Margo is not. I'm halfway across the country from Margo, and not a big like, no ifs or buts about that. But like, I did, I think grow in all of my early business ventures. It was just so common to go with the local person, to go with the partner's accountant that they've known since they were like kids, like whatever. And so
somebody who's sitting in that local mentality for say where you did a little bit of a stretch. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to, I think, the power of branding. Is just like the brand is very much centered around real estate, and so like I think it just met like if I was to go it, and I've always struggled, like, do you go big firm or small firm? Big firm being, I've done that experience where maybe they're not quite as like aggressive or questioning or trying to like help you work the tax code to your advantage. Whereas the small firm maybe goes a little bit the like too far into the gray area. So like I think domain expertise is incredibly important in this industry. Like there are things that like people need to understand about the real estate industry. And it just that leads you to asking better questions. It leads you to having better strategies. It leads you to thinking through it. But I mean, all things said, like it just worked. It honestly probably worked better than a local person because we didn't rely on like dropping papers off or emailing stuff back and forth. Like everything was set up to accommodate a like dispersed asynchronous experience that like made it super seamless. Can you guys hear my dog in the background?
I was about to say, what's your dog's name?
This is Nye, like New York.
Hi, Nye.
She's I don't know why she's staring at that door, but anyway, so yeah, it's like
so if I can ask this, what made you decide to go with HCT?
It had to have honestly been the call. Like I was super hesitant, even on the call. I think you can probably remember that. I was like, a waiver. I think I actually like punted it to the next day or something like that. But I just knew I needed this done, and you seemed like cool, calm, collected, dealt with this a million times, are dealing with clients that are 8 years behind. So like to me, that was like that gave me the confidence to say, yeah, like let's do this. And I think it was, I will be a little candid, it was probably a bit of a leap of faith on my behalf. I still had a little bit of that, like I should do more due diligence, maybe talk to one or two people. But in the end, like it actually, like it delivered on everything, actually, like way better than any other tax firm I've worked with in the past.
Is there something that you wish you knew earlier in the stage of around planning?
So I think I would have like been pretty in that early stage. I definitely think the like async time commitment, the checklist, the stuff like would have been a good.
Meaning
It
like
was really
how long
nice.
it takes?
Not even how long it takes. So like I did the very first thing is you get that like big organizer, and that actually did take a little bit of time. It probably took me an hour to an hour and a half to like get all the information together in the organizer. And then the back and forth was super simple. So I sat down, you like did the big thing, and then I don't know what software you guys were using, but it like made it super, it gave me a checklist. I would upload documents. They would go work, and then I would get more questions, and then like it was just it became as simple as answering an email after the first, like to me it was the first lift, and then it was basically just like emails back and forth. They asked for a couple questions that took me a little bit longer. But then again, back in their court and then back and forth. And so I think that like
So
honestly,
if anybody is in our current process, just so you know, so post that what we did is last year, we looked at every single email that came through that was causing a back and forth to update that front load organizer
yeah,
to either give more instruction or more direction and add in there to help. Because just so you know, what happens is in the tax return is that it's possible we know the information as being part of your team. It's possible that some of this is obvious. It's possible in a different capacity. Let's say you're working with my firm for bookkeeping and we have it. However, when our tax managers is working with it and they're doing it, that having it in the sequential format around everything, you're documenting it, it also puts us in a good position to file the return appropriately. And there's no way other to do it than to give you that organizer, because we wouldn't have access to your entities. We wouldn't have access to the EIN and whatnot of those things. And if you're not doing bookkeeping, the work is going to be on you to be able to do those numbers versus if we would have done bookkeeping the whole year or put you into a way that we can help you for the tax return at the time. Now, we do work with clients in that capacity. However, as a strategy, I always lead by saying monthly is more ideal. However, there are cases when there's cleanup, there's back work, and there's all these other types of things. So I really appreciate your honesty around this all and to be able to share your experience. I asked Alex to come on as a, who went through it with us because, he had his experience and, the way we talked after, I thought he was a good person for a lot of you to hear, that if you're sitting in the angst and the many years behind, there's no shame with this. I mean, I don't want to say it's just another case for me. It's not something that I want for you. The shift here today is that I want to make is that money and tax doesn't have to be hard unless you're willing to leave the story. When you're willing to leave the story and to be led and taken to a whole new place, magical things will happen. And I mean magical things because I'm going to close actually with a story. In October, I had ankle surgery. And my doctor told me, Margo, you're going to be off load activities for about 10 days. I didn't really get fully offload activities for the 10 days until in it, and if I did not have my money in order, my team in order, also finances from my personal self and my family. I mean, we still need to eat. The mortgage still needs to get paid. I needed to hire help because my doctor told me I was not allowed to walk. I mean, imagine not walking, turning over. I was literally of no capacity. And I thank my lucky stars the day that I did put tax planning into place because there was nothing I looked back on during that time. I was able to have full recovery. The team was in full motion. I did get some texts out because I love answering my clients and the team. At a point, I think like my daughter or somebody here hid the phones, or my team said stop it a bunch of times. However, I don't want to say it use the word saved my life, but it helped me shift my life in an even healthier way that I can focus on me while still taking care of the business. And I want to say how many people think that business can happen at the same time of other things. It can, because lots of times we think we need to leverage different ways to make more money when we watch the money that we already have and maximize the dollar. There's a lot more that you can take without necessarily hustling more. And I can say that over and over with so many stories. I can go on and on, but I want you today to get the elements from Alex today of where he shared his tips, his experience, and that if or when you're ready, and if you are ready, I would love to be that point guard for you to cheer you on and to move you forward. I would love to have a conversation with you so that I can change your life. I can make this easier. And I can tell you, he said his experience from last year. This season, actually, it got even easier, to believe it or not. And we already have some clients that are at the finish line, believe it or not, because they followed the process, they're doing it, and that's just what we want. So just to close, Alex, what's your biggest takeaway from this? And is there anything else you want people to know, and things of that nature?
Oof. I mean, my biggest takeaway is just the only way through it is through it, and you just got to get started. And honestly, if you are in business for yourself, or you have a very large like real estate portfolio or team, or whatever company you have, like you might have some of the monthly bookkeeping stuff in place. You might have a in-house accountant. You might be at different levels of what you have from a team perspective. But I found, working with Margo and her team to be extremely easy. Like I said, I have probably worked with 8 or 10 or 12 different accounting firms over my time, and I have delivered everything from physical printout to like having them come into my office and use my QuickBooks and take stuff on thumb drives to now like this was literally as easy as an email back and forth. And so it's a service to yourself. Like getting it, even though intellectually I knew the steps and the things and the how, it was just like a who, not a how problem in this case. And I needed the who, and that turned out to be Margo and her team, and it was great. And so, yeah, I mean, any of my friends in the real estate space, if you're looking for a good team, I would highly, start with tax and then start to chat about what it looks like to do month-end close and bookkeeping and some of that other stuff as well, because it's the benefits of a virtual team with the domain expertise that you need.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. Hug that baby and enjoy soccer after this.
Will do. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It was fun.
You're so welcome. Thank you all for listening. As always, any questions, let me know. Keep your comments, keep your feedback coming, and anything that can help you as a resource. If or when you're ready, please let me know. And I look forward to talking to you soon. And until next time, again, Alex, thank you, and have a great rest of your Monday. Bye for now.
You as well. Thanks, guys. Take care.